Jonathan, so firstly, I would like to thank you and BW Hotelier for inviting me on this wonderful platform and to be able to share my views amongst all the panelists. So when we actually look at the ecosystem today, let's understand that today both the parties, which is the hotels and the supplier partners, are really facing difficult times and challenges, and both have to survive, right? And maturity of both the parties is very important at this stage. And the first step, I think, is to understand from a supplier partner, what is their financial status today? Now, some of them could be actually at the brink of solvency or bankruptcy. So we need to determine that how strong are some of these financially. Would they require advances? Would they require prepayments? Would they require faster payments and so on? Would they be able to supply as before? And we will have to look at a very innovative and a collaborative framework, which cannot exist without each other's support. And the focus should be on introducing collaborative ways of working first. Now, the key here is to create internal alignment and a very collaborative mindset and culture throughout each part of the hotel organization that is linked to this effort. Also, when we look at the suppliers externally, I think suppliers won't fully take part unless there's something in for them. So our aim should be actually a two-way benefit right from the word go. Then there'll also be new norms around safety that have to be understood by the suppliers, right? How safe is a supply chain? Say, for example, for the cold storage, for fresh products that needs to be supplied. What are the hygiene standards that will need to be followed? What norms they would follow for their facilities, for their own staff, for the vehicles that will ensure transport of all the critical supplies to our hotels, right? Most of the organizations that have actually faced supply chain disruptions, especially now due to the coronavirus, do not seem to have visibility down to the tier 2 suppliers, or are highly dependent on a single geography or a single supplier for some of these key products. Now, how can we really look at that ecosystem, and how can we encourage our suppliers with whom we've directly contracted to allow us to gain visibility into their supplier network? So organizations would need to gain more visibility into the extended supplier network. And actually today we'll start to work on a diversification of their suppliers across geographies. Start picking out and identifying some of the key commodities, products, material supplies, and start looking at multi-sourcing some of these or some of the strategic components to reduce reliance on a single supplier. I think some of these will have to be looked at very closely. Now, very broadly, we generally classify that, yes, we've got a procurement plan in place, or yes, we are working very collaboratively with suppliers. Now, it is high time when we stop putting all these things just on paper and actually translating these to grounds. Right. So from a hotel management point of view and the procurement perspective, I think we need to work very, very closely and bring suppliers into this game as very strategic partners and put everybody's skin in the game. So I think that there was a time, over a period of time, what we started doing was started onboarding more and more vendors who came up with some specific products and services. And what as procurement professionals we ended up with is a whole lot of supplier partners. Now, one aspect was managing the supplier partners, but now going forward, we just cannot afford or start dealing with so many numerous suppliers. And we will have to start working with a few key partners and work collaboratively, innovatively, even ensuring that they invest and build their capability so they are able to offer you more products and services as a consolidation and aggregation. And you start working with these partners. I think this comes to how probably we are going to look at qualifying our suppliers and how we are going to work with them in the future. Now, when I look at the cross section of the industry, and not just hotels, but the general environment today is how can we focus more on technology? And like it was brought out in our previous discussions. So apart from the basic factors of financial sustenance, sustainability, suppliers adhering to the new requirements of the norms of maintaining certifications, permit licenses, I think there's going to be a big focus on technology. Now, some of these suppliers, while they've jumped and they want to ride the bandwagon of whether chemicals, whether sanitizers, whether so many other new categories, face masks and so on, I think a lot of it also will be dependent upon how they are adopting or they're going to adopt technology. Now, there has been a lot of discussion around the disruptive technologies like IoTs, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, analytics, robotics, blockchain primarily. And there are many articles also around blockchain in food, blockchain in products, manufacturing, and so on, and creating that visibility. It also ties in very well with that comment that Nitin made earlier of that procurement manager trying to put some money in his pocket, or the perception of somebody trying to put that money in their pocket. So how do we create more visibility into the way that we're doing things, and how do we bring in technology? How do we encourage suppliers to use more of technology? So that's one part of it. The second part is also that from a hotel perspective, we have to look at what is our requirement. And based on that requirement, so whether it is assessment of the critical raw material availability, mapping it to high value products and revenue streams, some of the critical supplies that we are looking at, who the vendors are, who can we really work with, their geographical presence, their wherewithal, where do they come from. We should also look at some of these suppliers who will offer BCP plans, contingency plans on flexibility on contract terms, being able to step up and be more partners in the game than being just a supplier and washing your hands off. So I think some of these, if these partners really come with an open mind, I think we can do a lot together in this business. So if I think back into my times when I was in the army, I think and I look at some of the fundamentals of the military environment. Now, as a military leader, you lead men into situations that can be difficult, sometimes dangerous, a lot of times life-threatening. And why do these men who are there with you follow you unquestionably? And mostly it is because you worked with them very closely. And Sanjay ji brought out the whole training aspect that you build. So you build a bond with them, you build a camaraderie with them, you develop trust with them. You've given that confidence to these people who are in your immediate ecosystem that you are there for them. Also, when you're part of a regiment or a battalion, you normally work with other formations to support you in times of war or aggression, and you're also out training and all. But even with these people, your focus is on building collaboration and trust. You are discussing plans with them. You are open to suggestions. Innovative thoughts and ideas need to be put on the table. How would you attack? How would you encircle the enemy? And so on, when you get into those nitty-gritties of it. Now, what also you do is, and very, very critical that I emphasize a lot in my corporate life, is that you are hearing all perspectives from your teams and other members who are part of your extended groups and collaborative efforts. And what you start doing is developing very good listening skills. Now, these are some of the skills of listening, collaboration, trust, building camaraderie and bonding is something that I've adopted very strongly, and I've applied them in the corporate environment. And especially when I work with some of these key suppliers. Now, trust, takes a long time to build. It's not that
Correct.
I meet somebody today and he says, oh, I trust you, right? So trust takes a long time to build, but that trust is a step-by-step process. And some of these suppliers with whom I've worked very closely over a period of time have seen me as their friend. And friend or partner in the sense that they know that I'm going to be very fair in my dealing with them. And whether the organization is wrong or the supplier is wrong, I will always play that balancing act in between and will support the party. And also for the partner, that they understand that they need to step up as partners and have to deliver value. Another thing that I keep telling a lot of, and in my conversation with a lot of procurement professionals, is that and we've spoken about this earlier, you normally start working with numerous supplier partners. Right? You keep onboarding every new product, every new service, you keep onboarding partners. You don't really need to get to that, but start developing strategic partnerships. Now, some of the organizations will work on the Pareto principle of that 80-20 rule of where your 80% spend is with your 20% suppliers. So you start developing relationship with the suppliers. Now, for me, always it has been every one of my supplier has been my strategic partner. And therefore, looking at my own time and effort constraint, I start working closely and developing partners to be able to take on more. And again, a point that we had discussed in the earlier conversation. So these are some of the aspects that I've really translated from my military environment, and I've brought them to my corporate life, and I've started working around these, which I think in a way has been part of my success, or either which way is the working, is because people identify some of these aspects and really come up front to really partner with what I'm trying to do or what I'm trying to innovate, or that collaborative effort that's starting to build up and so on. So each organization has their own pros and cons. I love and I miss a lot of the military life, many aspects of that military life, but I also love a lot of aspects of my corporate life. So the camaraderie that we build in the military life, for example, any postmate or any Fauji that I meet or bump into anywhere, we click like nobody's business instantly.
Correct.
Right. And that is something that is completely amiss in the corporate life. So even though, yes, you have a small fraternity, hotel professionals and all, you keep meeting, interacting, yes. But other than that, the larger force in the corporate, you have no association. You meet them very formally in an office environment, and that's about it. You don't build the social bonding. You don't build a lot of the camaraderie and so on. So pros and cons of both. Some I miss of the military life, some aspects are good here. I think so. A lot of matured countries have this conscription services where people or youngsters go through at least a few years of training and get to see the environment. And I think we are at that stage where it is very important for the youngsters to really look at that and really understand where some of the military personnel come from and what are the challenges and the issues that they face on the borders. It's very easy to just put everything under the carpet and say, oh, I've read something and I don't know whether it's true or false or how it is. But only when they go through, they'll be able to associate and understand some of those challenges better.